The Dunning-Kruger Effect, understanding the psychology, behavior, and neuroscience of overconfidence. In the vast landscape of human cognition, one of the most intriguing and frequently observed phenomena is the Dunning-Kruger effect. Coined by social psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger in 1999, this effect describes a cognitive bias wherein individuals with limited competence in a domain overestimate their abilities, while those with greater skill often underestimate their relative proficiency. This counterintuitive observation challenges conventional notions of self-awareness and expertise, highlighting the intricate interplay between knowledge, metacognition, and behavior. By examining the psychological foundations, behavioral manifestations, neuroscientific correlates, and experimental evidence, one gains a comprehensive understanding of how this effect shapes human decision-making and societal interactions. Psychological foundations of the Dunning-Kruger effect. At its core, the Dunning-Kruger effect arises from a deficiency in metacognition, the ability to evaluate one's own cognitive performance accurately. Metacognition, sometimes referred to as thinking about thinking, enables individuals to recognize both the limits and strengths of their knowledge. When metacognitive abilities are impaired or underdeveloped, people lack the awareness to identify their errors, leading to inflated self-assessments. Dunning and Kruger, 1999, argued that the same skills required to perform competently in a task are also necessary to recognize competence in oneself and others. Thus, individuals with low competence not only perform poorly, but also fail to appreciate the quality of their performance. Conversely, highly competent individuals aware of the complexity of the domain may underestimate their relative ability, assuming that tasks easy for them are easy for others as well. This phenomenon aligns with the psychological principle of the illusion of superiority, a subset of cognitive biases that inflate self-perception. Cognitive psychology further suggests that the Dunning-Kruger effect can be explained by the dual process theory of thinking, which distinguishes between intuitive, automatic thinking, System 1, and analytical, deliberate reasoning, System 2. Incompetent individuals often rely excessively on System 1, making rapid judgments without critical evaluation, thereby overestimating their expertise. In contrast, experts engage System 2 more thoroughly, recognizing nuances and potential pitfalls, which can temper confidence despite high competence. Behavioral manifestations. The behavioral consequences of the Dunning-Kruger effect are wide-ranging, influencing personal decision-making, professional performance, and social interactions. One classic example occurs in educational settings. Studies show that students with lower test scores tend to overestimate their performance, predicting grades significantly higher than their actual results, whereas high-performing students often predict lower than actual scores. This discrepancy can have profound implications for learning, motivation, and self-improvement. In organizational contexts, the effect manifests in overconfident employees taking on tasks beyond their skill level, sometimes resulting in suboptimal outcomes. Leaders who overestimate their abilities may make strategic errors, underestimate risks, or fail to seek advice. Similarly, in the digital age, individuals with minimal expertise can confidently disseminate misinformation, believing in their accuracy despite evidence to the contrary. Social media amplifies this effect, creating environments where the loudest voices often reflect the least informed opinions. Moreover, the Dunning-Kruger effect influences interpersonal dynamics. Overconfident individuals may dominate discussions, dismissing opposing views, and shaping group decisions disproportionately. Meanwhile, competent individuals may remain silent or defer, undervaluing their contributions. The cumulative impact of these behaviors reinforces social inequalities in influence and decision-making, illustrating that the effect is not merely an academic curiosity, but a societal phenomenon. Experimental evidence. Dunning and Kruger's seminal study in 1999 laid the foundation for empirical research on this effect. The researchers conducted a series of experiments with participants completing tasks in humor, grammar, and logic. Participants were then asked to estimate their performance relative to peers. Results consistently showed that the lowest quartile of performers overestimated their abilities, sometimes ranking themselves above average, while top performers underestimated their relative ranking. This pattern became widely known as the double curse of incompetence. Lacking skill both prevents accurate performance and impairs self-awareness. Subsequent studies have replicated and extended these findings across diverse domains. For instance, research on medical knowledge, financial literacy, and driving skills confirmed that novices tend to overrate their capabilities, often failing to recognize errors in judgment. Experiments in political and scientific literacy also reveal that overconfidence is disproportionately present in those with limited expertise, exacerbating challenges in public decision-making and democratic discourse. Longitudinal studies suggest that feedback and training can mitigate the Dunning-Kruger effect. When individuals receive corrective feedback, they often recalibrate their self-assessments, aligning more closely with actual performance. However, the process is gradual. Entrenched overconfidence can persist even in the face of repeated errors, particularly in domains where subjective confidence is rewarded socially or culturally. Neuroscientific insights. Recent advances in neuroscience provide a deeper understanding of the Dunning-Kruger effect, linking overconfidence to specific brain networks involved in self-evaluation and error monitoring. Functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, studies have highlighted the role of the prefrontal cortex in metacognition. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, DLPFC, is implicated in executive functions, including planning, reasoning, and self-monitoring, while the anterior cingulate cortex, ACC, plays a critical role in detecting errors and conflicts. Individuals exhibiting overconfidence tend to show reduced activation in these regions when evaluating their performance, suggesting diminished error awareness. Conversely, highly skilled individuals demonstrate heightened prefrontal activity, reflecting careful assessment of task difficulty and potential mistakes. These findings align with behavioral observations. Incompetence not only affects performance, but also impairs the neural mechanisms that would otherwise correct overestimations. Neurochemical factors may also contribute. Dopaminergic signaling, associated with reward prediction and motivation, influences confidence judgments. Elevated dopamine levels can enhance perceived competence independent of actual ability, creating a neurobiological substrate for overestimation. Additionally, studies of developmental neuroscience indicate that metacognitive networks mature gradually, explaining why younger individuals often display heightened susceptibility to overconfidence. Broader implications. Understanding the Dunning-Kruger effect has profound implications across education, industry, public policy, and mental health. In educational psychology, fostering accurate self-assessment skills can enhance learning outcomes. Teaching metacognitive strategies, such as self-testing, reflective journaling, and peer review, enables students to calibrate confidence with competence, reducing the risk of both overconfidence and imposter syndrome. In organizational contexts, awareness of the effect can improve decision-making and risk management. By implementing structured feedback systems, promoting humility in leadership, and encouraging collaborative evaluation, institutions can mitigate the impact of overconfident individuals. Similarly, public policy can benefit from understanding how overestimation of knowledge shapes societal debates, from vaccine hesitancy to climate change denial, emphasizing the need for clear communication and accessible expertise. On a societal level, the Dunning-Kruger effect underscores the fragility of self-perception. In an era where information is abundant yet expertise is unevenly distributed, overconfidence can distort collective judgment, influencing elections, financial markets, and public health decisions. Simultaneously, recognition of one's limitations, a hallmark of true expertise, becomes a critical skill, enabling individuals to seek guidance, question assumptions, and engage constructively with complex challenges. Critiques and limitations. Despite its explanatory power, the Dunning-Kruger effect is not without controversy. Some researchers argue that statistical artifacts, such as regression toward the mean, may partially account for observed overestimations. Others contend that self-report measures of ability are inherently subjective and influenced by social desirability or cultural norms, potentially confounding results. Furthermore, the effect may interact with personality traits, such as narcissism, risk tolerance, and openness to experience, complicating the relationship between competence and confidence. Nonetheless, a preponderance of evidence supports the robustness of the phenomenon across domains, populations, and methodologies. While the exact magnitude and underlying mechanisms may vary, the central insight that limited competence can undermine accurate self-assessment remains compelling and widely relevant. Conclusion. The Dunning-Kruger effect illuminates a paradox at the heart of human cognition. Those least capable are often least aware of their limitations, while the most competent frequently underestimate their relative ability. Psychological theories of metacognition, behavioral observations in educational and professional settings, experimental evidence, and neuroscientific findings converge to explain this phenomenon, revealing how cognition, self-perception, and brain function intersect. By recognizing the Dunning-Kruger effect, individuals and institutions can cultivate humility, foster accurate self-assessment, and implement strategies to reduce the consequences of overconfidence. In a world increasingly shaped by complex information and rapid decision-making, understanding the blind spots of the mind is not merely an academic exercise. It is a practical necessity. From classrooms to boardrooms, from social media to public discourse, awareness of our cognitive limits may be the first step toward wiser choices, better learning, and more resilient societies.